Hey guys, this is Patrick and you're watching Patrick Programs, even though I'm not programming. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you feel like it's helping you in any type of way or if you enjoy what I'm saying and what I'm doing. So this video is going to be about what classes you're going to take in a computer science major. We're pretty much going to go over every class that you should expect to take while you're pursuing a computer science degree. And this is going to be based off of the classes that I had to take, based off of the requirements of my university, and some research that I did online on what other universities require that you take. So for the most part, every class that I'm going to list here is a class that every university is going to make you take. So this should give you guys an idea of if you want to pursue a computer science degree, because a lot of people think it's just programming, but a lot of it is theoretical. I mean, a lot of it is programming, but a lot of it is theoretical. So me giving you this information might give you some perspective on whether or not you actually want to go through with a computer science degree. So we can start like with the super basics thing. I mean, every college is going to require that you take like English and some type of language, although I don't think you have to take a language if you're doing computer science, as programming counts as a language in a lot of universities. But you should expect to take a bunch of science classes like physics or bio or chemistry, something like that. And you'll have to take calculus 1, calculus 2, and some people have to take like calculus 3 and 4. I didn't take 3 and 4, I just took 1 and 2. You'll also need to take a probability and statistics class and a linear algebra class. So those are like the basic math classes you'll have to take. I mean, there are other math classes, but they're more computer science math classes. And right now I'm going over the basic math classes that you have to take. I guess I should add in combinatorics. So I'm not sure if every university teaches combinatorics, but my university has a specific class for applied math majors and computer scientists. So you have to take this class where it pretty much goes over some probability and statistics. It goes over graph theory, and it goes over combinatorics, you know, like combinations and permutations and things like that. It's not an easy class. But yeah, let me get started with the computer science classes you're going to have to take. So the first class you're probably going to have to take is an introduction to computer science class, or an introduction to programming, which is going to be you learning a specific programming language. So in this class, you'll learn the structure of a programming language. You'll be introduced to procedural programming and object-oriented programming. Some universities split that up into 2 classes, where the first one is just going to be you learning the basics in the structure, and you'll also learn like conditionals and functions and programming methodology. But in my university, they mix everything into one class because it's the idea of it is to be kind of a weed out class. So they're trying to get the people who are not doing the work out. And I think many universities do this. So you should expect to learn everything that I just mentioned, but you should also add object-oriented programming, where you'll learn about things like polymorphism, encapsulation, and inheritance. And these are all useful things if you want to build a project, and if you want to these are all the basics of computer science programming. And you'll typically learn all these things in one language. So the first class is going to be introducing you to all these concepts in a specific language, which will probably be Java or Python. And the interesting thing is, it depends on the professor and the way that they teach the class, because you can get an awful professor who just makes you hate programming and makes you hate comp sci. But if you get a good one who's nice and, you know, helps you out and, you know, teaches you things nice and slow, you'll probably end up liking it more than if you had a teacher who was just kind of telling you that you're stupid and is giving you a lot of work and not really helping you much at all. The second class you should expect to take is data structures. So this is another fundamental class that everybody's required to take, and most times it's the second level of the first programming class that you took. So although this class is difficult for some people, it's still like a very basic and foundational class where you're going to learn data manipulation and data storage. So you're going to be using things like queues, lists, all types of list and arrays, stacks. You're going to learn about red and black trees, binary trees, balanced trees, heaps. You'll also learn like fundamental algorithms. You'll learn about sorting algorithms and which algorithms are most efficient. You'll learn about big O notation, theta, little o, all that stuff. But the thing is, in this class, you're not only going to be using these things, you're also going to be creating them, so you see how they actually work and why they're useful. So that's a big part of the class. The third class is Discrete Math. That's going over computer science math concepts. You'll learn about sets, functions, relations, recursion. You'll do logic. You'll do mathematical induction. And you'll learn a bunch of different proof techniques. So For me, this was a really interesting class. I mean, a lot of people liked it, but it's also like a tough class, depending on, who's teaching it and what they expect from you. But I would argue that, this is one of the better classes that you'll take because it's really going to enhance your thinking. The fourth class is Theory of Computation, and this was one of my favorite classes because the material to me almost felt like a video game. Like, they were pretty much like puzzles and problems that you had to solve. And we were allowed to do work on the projects in a group. So I was able to do it with my friend, and sometimes we would like go on the whiteboard and we would compete to see who could finish first. And we were also able to help each other out, which just made everything a lot more fun. So this is pretty much like another math class on some level, but it's gonna teach you how a computer works. It's gonna go over the theory behind what a machine does in the background. It talks about what a machine can compute and what it can't compute. And we learn that by going over the different models of computation. You'll learn about finite automata, regular expressions, context-free grammar, push-on automatas, Turing machines, and NP completeness problems. And for me, and I think most of my classmates, Turing machines is where it really got tough because now we had to go into the realm of things that are decidable and not decidable. I mean, the rest of the class was like fun and exciting and not too awful. But the end of it, where we go over Turing machines, that was tough. The next class is computer organization. Computer organization, architecture and assembly, it's something like that. So in my school, we just call it System Fundamentals 1. But in other schools, I think sometimes they divide it into two classes, where one class is computer organization and assembly, and another class is computer architecture. For us, we had to do everything in one class. So that made it extra hard, and they did that because this was yet another weed-out class. So I mean, by now you would have thought they like weeded everybody out, but they almost weeded me out here, actually. But I made it through. So pretty much in this class, how it was for us is we had homework assignments, and then we had to prepare for exams. And the homeworks were always different than what was going to be on the exam. So we were taking like 2 classes at one time in one class. So we had to work on MIPS projects, it's like assembly language. So they want us to learn MIPS so that we have more of an appreciation of higher level languages like Java, C, and Python. And it also gives you an idea of how things are really working in the background when you're doing certain computations. Like in Java, if you're doing, let's say, an addition, it's going to be 1 line of code. But in MIPS, it's going to be like 4 or 5 lines of code because you have to store information, you need to load information. I mean, there's a bunch of things actually going on in the background, and that's what you learn when you're coding in MIPS. You also learn about memory hierarchies and how memory is stored and how things are actually computed on the circuit and how the different logic gates are used to create certain effects. So there's like input-output structures, buses, pipelining, and a bunch of other things that just kind of suck, but are kind of useful to know. The next class is databases. So databases, I think, is taught differently in different universities, but the idea behind it is, for you to be able to build something that's of worth, you're probably going to be interacting with something that's storing your data, and your data needs to be stored somewhere. And the solution for that is a database. In the class that I took, we learned MySQL. So we learned all the different ways you can store information in a database, all the different ways you can delete, update. I mean, we learned all the concepts that you need to know to use MySQL and to understand how databases work. And the best thing about the class is that we had to work in a group. So then I had 2 of my buddies and we were sitting next to each other, and we decided to get into a group together. And it was kind of like playing a video game, like I personally really like group work because we get to be our own bosses. We get to sit down and figure out who does what and when we're going to get things done. And we get to communicate with each other if we have any problems. So like during Thanksgiving break, we called each other up and we were just coding away. And it kind of felt like a video game, like if I was playing on Xbox Live and having a good time. So that was my favorite part of the class. Another class, and this one is like a really crucial class. I mean, everybody goes through this. This is algorithms. So algorithms is one of the most important classes you'll probably take in computer science. And I'm not going to go too much into it. But it is what it sounds like. You just learn a bunch of different type of algorithms and how they work. This goes more into like big O notation and how you actually calculate that. Pretty much you learn a bunch of algorithms, and then you learn how to think about algorithms for yourself. It's not an easy class at all. It's pretty much another math class. The last 2, I'm going to put them together. Not because they're the same, but because at my university you kind of got to choose between them. So that's Principles of Programming Languages and Operating Systems. And Principles of Programming Languages pretty much just explains to you what a programming language is and how it works and which programming languages you should use in one situation versus another situation. It sounds easy, but it's really not. I mean, for anybody who's taken a class, you know how much is actually going on there. Just because it's principles of programming languages doesn't mean like it's stuff that you already learned. This is like a whole new world of you learning. I'm not even going to tell you. You'll find out for yourself. And I didn't take operating systems, so I can't speak too much about that, but I do know at my university, it's one of the hardest classes you'll take because you're building an actual operating system in C, and nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that. That's why I didn't take it. Some people want to do that. Anyway, those are all the classes you should expect to take in a computer science program. Some of them you probably should not take at the same time, but do whatever you want to do, I'll make some videos on classes you may not want to take at the same time. But a good idea is to talk to people who have already done it. Like, if you're a sophomore, talk to a junior or senior, and talk to people around you. They'll have a good idea of what classes to take and with what professors you should take it with. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you like the video, then like it, please. And please subscribe and tell your friends about it. It'll help out the channel. Thank you.